I'm going to make a video here of geoengineeringwatch.org's Dane Wigington, a new pamphlet he has coming out. It's 20 pages long, and it's pretty good. It's well worth getting, I'm sure, when it comes out, and pass it around. So it's Geoengineering, a Chronicle of Indictment, exposing the global climate engineering cover-up. Fact and photo summary. And that shot right there is in the Yosemite Valley in California. Beautiful place. Been there many times myself, backpacking and staying in the valley there. It's beautiful. And anybody that thinks that's natural sky up there and looking up from that beautiful area, it's amazing how people are just so far in their cognitive dissonance that they would even think that's anything normal or natural. Dane Wigington, geoengineeringwatch.org, and that's the cover page right there. What experiments are governments around the world carrying out in our skies without the knowledge and consent of the populations? And here are some satellite photos. Whether you believe in satellites or not, I think they're high altitude aircraft and even balloons. I don't think we can actually put satellites into orbit. That was all, actually it was Clark, I think, the science fiction writer that wrote about putting satellites. Next thing you know, about 10 years later, NASA's putting satellites in space. Well, anyways, that's a whole nother subject. But the one on the left there is a satellite image of California coastline, radio frequency, microwave transmission manipulation of aerosol cloud cover marine layer. And we've all seen it. The one on the right there, NASA image taken of African coast, radio frequency, microwave transmission manipulation. Next one is again of the microwave transmissions hitting the metallic nanoparticles in the sky. An aircraft dispersion of climate engineering particulates is manipulated with radio frequency, microwave transmissions, Palm Springs, California. I've seen it out there many times myself. The one on the right, an existing atmospheric saturation of climate engineering particles is manipulated with radio frequency, microwave transmissions. And that's in Washington. And the next image on the left, NOAA satellite image, radio frequency, microwave transmissions, manipulation of Eastern Pacific Storm System. And the one on the right, NASA satellite image, radio frequency, microwave transmissions, manipulated square cloud formation. And how often do you see? I mean, there's absolutely nothing natural about this square right there. I mean, that is just nothing natural about that. How square that is. How unnatural do our skies need to become before populations begin to look up and investigate? Good question. Because I've pointed it right to people and they look up and it's like, oh, look at that. Huh, interesting. So, that was page 2. The Global Climate Engineering Manhattan Project. And there's a book out by a guy named Peter Kirby called The New Manhattan Project. If people don't know what the Manhattan Project was, it was when they were making the A-bomb, hydrogen bomb, and how they compartmentalized it all. And that's how nobody really knew what they were really doing, because they just knew their little specific part in making of the bomb, and the only one really knew were the people at the top that were organizing it. But anyways, it's a good book. I'll put a link to it and some of his interviews. It's well worth at least watching one of his interviews. What if there were a monumental environmental threat that you didn't even know was occurring? What if it came into use in an insidious way, just as GMO foods have come into our food supply without our knowledge or consent? What if it appeared to be harmless, but it wasn't? And what if it was so cleverly woven into our culture that we didn't even see it anymore? What if it were so masterfully stigmatized and wrapped in controversy that if you thought it strange or concerning, you'd be scorned or ignored? Anyone have that happen? Oh yeah, all the time. What if you found out that this issue was already affecting your health and that of other people you know and love? What if this threat had the potential to destroy our crops, our trees, the soil they are grown in, our water supply, the protective layers of our atmosphere, the whole ecosystems? What if all available data and frontline facts made clear that this issue was putting the entire web of life in balance? Global climate engineering intervention programs are mathematically the greatest and most immediate threat we collectively face, short of nuclear catalysm. I think I said that right. How many of us have ever known truly natural weather? Well, maybe when I was a kid, but it's been progressing, and this past 10 years has just been incredible. Global climate intervention, geoengineering, solar radiation management programs are not just an outlandish and unrealistic proposal. Climate intervention operations have been deployed and steadily expanded over 70 years with catastrophic consequences. In addition to the stated purpose of mitigating global warming, which all available data confirms geoengineering is making worse overall, not better, there are many additional sub-objectives being carried out in our skies under the guise of geoengineering. The electrically conducted heavy metal particulates that are being sprayed help to enhance over the horizon radar, radio frequencies transmissions, EMP, electromagnetic pulse, offense and defense weaponry. The military-industrial complex, of course, never considers the immense consequences of their atmospheric activities and experiments. And there's some pictures showing the spraying and just the different operations and how it's all working. Mainstream science sources assist with the cover-up of geoengineering operations by showing preposterous and unrealistic forms of geoengineering like space mirrors, alongside the very forms of climate intervention that had been fully developed for decades. Jet aircraft spray dispersions of geoengineering aerosols are a primary element in the ongoing climate engineering operation. Equation, operation. So that's page 3. What is climate engineering, aka also known as geoengineering, aka chemtrails? Dane usually doesn't like using the term chemtrails, but it's fine with me, man. That's what they are. They're chemical trails. I don't have a problem with it. But put it in his flyer, so that's cool. The first picture there is in Nyon, Switzerland. And then the other picture there is where Dane lives, up in Redding, California. And that was by his wife. She took that one. Jovita, I think is how you pronounce her name. She's from Eastern Europe, Russia. There are a number of science terms that refer to various aspects and stated agendas relating to climate engineering operations. Utilizing the science terms that are applicable to this issue, imperative in order to garner and retain credibility. Chemtrails is a non-science term. and thus is not helpful in the effort to raise awareness and credibility on the critical climate engineering subject. Well, there goes Dane stating that he doesn't like the term chemtrails, just like I said. It's here nor there to me, I don't mind it. Geoengineering, climate engineering, also referred as geoengineering or climate intervention, is the deliberate, large-scale intervention of Earth's climatic system with the aim of limiting adverse climate change. Okay, that's from Wikipedia. That's the stated goal. I think it's far more sinister than that. Solar radiation management, SRM projects, are a type of climate engineering which seek to reflect sunlight and thus reduce global warming. Proposed examples include the creation of stratospheric sulfate aerosols. It's Wikipedia also. Marine cloud brightening is proposed solar radiation management climate engineering technique that would make clouds brighter, reflecting a small fraction of incoming sunlight back into space in order to offset anthropogenic global warming. Anthropogenic is man-made effects of just our whole biosphere, what man is causing and the harm to the biosphere. Anthropogenic. I had to look it up when I first heard it months ago. Along with stratospheric aerosol injection is one of the two solar radiation management methods that may feasibly have sustained climate impact. And this is from Wikipedia, so like we trust them, right? Stratospheric aerosol injection. Stratospheric aerosol to create global dimming effect to limit the effect and impact of climate change due to rising levels of greenhouse gases, to deliver a precursor sulfide gas such as sulfuric acid, hydrogen sulfide, sulfur dioxide by aircraft. That's Wikipedia. Yeah, great. I've heard David Keith make jokes about it, talking about spraying sulfuric acid in the sky. And these people are absolutely psychopaths. Absolutely psychopaths. And there's the one on the left there is Shasta County where Dane lives. And that was by his wife too, Jovita. And then the other one is from Spain on the right there. Look at that. I see that sky just like that and sunrise just like that out in Coachella Valley all the time. So that was page 4. Condensation trails or jet sprayed aerosol dispersions. Well, we know they're aerosols. Official sources tell the public they are only seeing condensation trails in our skies. But is this the greatest truth? The alarming reality is this: the condensation trail official narrative is perhaps the greatest deception ever perpetrated on the population of the world, by those in power in order to effectively hide the clandestine climate engineering operations in plain sight. An actual condensation trail could never be turned on and off as seen in the photograph on the right. And I see them all the time. I've got videos of them turning off and on, and you get the shills coming on my site saying, you know, it's the atmospheric conditions, and it's just so ridiculous, these people. They're leaving me alone lately, so for whatever reason. I think because I'm exposing them and for what they are. They're most of these people that are these shills. They have extreme personality disorders and are narcissistic personalities that really get off on lying to people. They're sick. And when I started calling them out in that aspect and that point of view, they started backing off on me. So that's if you want to deal with the shills, just deal with their personality disorder and tell them exactly why they're capable of doing what they're doing. So anyways, whole nother subject. Maybe I'll make a video on that. Again, the express goal of climate engineers in their solar radiation management technofix, is that a word, for global warming is to intentionally spray millions of tons of light scattering, electrically conductive and highly toxic particles like aluminum into the atmosphere. And that picture over there shows it, jet turning off and on. Yeah. Chemtrail. Jet fuel additives are sprayed payload dispersions are both part of the ongoing SMRM atmospheric aerosol saturation effect. I'm not so sure about the jet fuel. I mean, they have tanks. All these aircraft, commercial passenger cargo jets they're all rigged to spray. They have the tanks. I'm sure in the storage compartments. I remember a few years ago, well, quite a few years ago, 15 years ago, when they started kind of cracking down on how much luggage you could carry. And it's probably because they started taking some of the cargo space and putting tanks in them, obviously. And anyways, whole nother subject again. Chasing a rabbit trail once again. In regard to the patently false condensation trail of official narrative, the following facts must be considered. All commercial passenger jets and military tanker jets are equipped with high bypass turbo jet engines. This engine is, in essence, a jet-powered fan that is designed for maximum fuel efficiency. Over 80% of the air that passes through a high bypass turbojet engine is non-combusted. Again, it is a jet-powered fan. Thus, by its very design, the high bypass turbofan jet engine is nearly incapable of producing any true condensation trail except under the most rare and extreme circumstances. So, and I'm sure that's very true. And the picture on the left there is Rotterdam, Netherlands. And look at that, Palm Springs, California. And I've seen those little starbursts in the sky just like that. So that was page 5. Aircraft spraying nozzles hidden in plain sight. And I'm sure all the jets have them rigged like this. It'd be interesting to get some airline mechanics to come forward and say, yeah, I service these things. I don't know exactly what they're being used for. Again, like the Manhattan Project, nobody really knows what they're doing, and if they probably even ask questions about it and they're immediately silenced. How would particulate spraying be executed from commercial and military jet aircraft in a manner that would be covert, in a manner that would fortify the official condensation trails? False narrative. By adding retrofit spray nozzles on the aircraft pylon just above the jet stream, aimed straight into this stream. Thus, condensation trail. False narrative is formed. So that's how they do it. They mount the, like right here, right, there's a jet engine. It's mounted right there. Makes it look like the aerosol is coming from the engine when it's not. And my look on these pictures here, like the one here, this one here, and all these tanks along there, and the tanks here, that's probably true to some degree. But again, like I was talking about earlier, that all these jets they're in the cargo holes, these tanks. So all these aircraft you see spraying are not set up like this. They're people and cargo on those jets. And the pilots, they don't turn off and on. It's all automated. So that's kind of a false picture of what a chemtrail jet is, because anymore, all commercial passenger, all the airlines, I've got pictures of them all spraying. Continental, American, Delta, FedEx, UPS, international flights. All of them. I've seen all of them spraying. So anyways, if you think there are only passengers in all commercial passenger jet aircraft, think again. Well, there you go. Available data, film footage, and air tracking programs prove that even passenger carrying commercial jet aircraft are being used for aerosol spraying into the atmosphere. Well, cool, Dane. I'm glad people are catching on and realizing that all aircraft are rigged to spray. It's just a fact. The atmospheric aerosol spraying programs are centrally controlled, coordinated, and operated. Documents revealed later in this booklet will further confirm this fact. So, cool. That was a good one. Totally agree. 100%. Page 6. Okay, there's a picture there in Tennessee. Nice, beautiful sky there in the Midwest. Lovely, huh? Over 70 years ago, in the United States government and other global powers made the decision to deploy global climate engineering programs without knowledge or consent of their citizens. Why would governments around the world participate in covert climate engineering programs? Perhaps the more appropriate question would be this: why wouldn't global power centers engage in patented climate operations for their very own purposes and agendas? The powers that be, and those who control the world's wealth, the banking cartels, they're all behind it. The big money, Rothschilds, Rockefellers, the Queen of England, and they're all part of it. Luciferians, they're all just psychopathic sickos. The answer is they would, and they have for over 70 years. Below are two examples of over 150 climate intervention related patents. And stratospheric Wells box seating for reduction of global warming abstract. There's the patent. Method is described for reducing atmospheric global warming resulting from the presence of heat trapped in gases in the atmosphere. Such gases are relatively transparent to sunshine but absorb strongly long wavelength radiation released by the Earth. The method includes the step of seeding with aircraft dispersion, the layer of heat trapping gases in the atmosphere, and particles of materials characterized by wavelength-dependent emission. Such materials include Welsbach materials and the oxides of metals, which have high immensity and thus low reflective invisibility, H12 micron infrared wavelengths. So whatever all that means, it's just that how the metallic nanoparticles can be affected with the microwave transmissions. And this is all Tesla technology. Tesla wrote about all this stuff. In fact, something interesting is, and Peter Kirby in his book, The New Manhattan Project, talks about it, is Donald Trump's uncle, John Trump, who Donald's middle name was named after. He was the guy that after the war and into the Cold War went through all of Tesla's research. I'm sure it was him and a team, and they decided what part of his research and his writings could be used for weather modification in a military aspect way. So Trump knows about it. He's one of them. I wasn't sure about him at first, just because how everybody was coming out against him. I think he was set up to win from the very beginning. I think it was just all a big puppet show. I really do. I think it's just Hollywood and the media supposedly out to get Trump. Nah, just a puppet show to make us think that he's one of us. He's not. He's not. Okay, weather modification method, patent the method of causing ice crystals formation in a mass of water droplets having a temperature less than plus 6 degrees centigrade, which comprises introducing into said mass of particles a finely divided solid substance having high solubility in water and large meth heat solution. Never heard that word. And selected from the group of consisting of urea, potassium nitrate, and ammonia nitrate. So, another patent. The next patent, for example, is chemical ice nucleation. And I've seen this firsthand, and all those cows up and a couple years ago that it was just the snow was just so wet and it just froze them because it just stuck to them. So, the process of chemically nucleating precipitation that would have fallen as rain into snow. This is a major tool for climate engineers and one they utilize constantly in order to temporarily and toxically create a short-term surface cool down. This is a primary factor with rapidly increasing weather whiplash. Temperature swings, now the common above freezing temperature snowfall events, and rapidly increasing extreme hail events. And seen some big hail coming down, and it's going to get bigger. You know, the Bible talks about 100-pound in the book of Revelation, 100-pound hailstones coming down. So I think it's a big part of it. China's weather manipulation brings crippling snowstorm to Beijing, a headline from Popular Science magazine. In the People's Republic of China, it's no secret that the party controls just about everything. Well, it's the same here. I mean, we've lost our sovereignty here in America decades and decades and decades ago. We lost it when Woodrow Wilson handed over our Treasury Department to the banking cartels, the Federal Reserve, and the crooks. That's, again, another story. But as Beijing suffers through its second major snowstorm this season, residents are growing weary of their leadership's control freak tendencies. Well, how is that different than here? After all, well, the storm came as a surprise to residents. The government knew about it all along. In fact, the government caused it. The U.S. government is engaged in the same process. Well, there you go. So that was page 7. Okay, page 8. If climate engineering, geoengineering, sprayed particulate trails are so prevalent in the upper troposphere, why don't they show up clearly on satellite images? Because the vast majority of satellite images from official sources are almost always filtered in order to mask the blatantly visible atmospheric spraying operations. Well, look at this. I mean, these are all chemtrails here. This is, where is this? Where am I here? Oh, there's San Francisco Bay right there. So that's all in the Pacific Northwest right there. Same here, San Francisco Bay right there. All that. And that's really where it started heavy, up in Dane's area, and I think that's why he became aware of it so much sooner than the rest of us, because they really concentrated in the Pacific Northwest. And if you think about it, you know, normally storms would blow off the North Pole, which I think is the center of the Earth. Actually, I don't believe the Earth is a globe. I'm absolutely convinced the Earth is flat, and it's another big lie. But people think I'm nuts on that one too. But do your own research. It's pretty obvious. NASA is just complete hoax. Just, you know, and I used to say, I had a friend, actually, I was working with this guy. He was an elder at my church. And he starts telling me about NASA and the moon landing being a hoax. And I'm like, Pete, you are, come on, these guys were Christians, remember? These guys were military guys, you know, hoorah. They're men of integrity. They wouldn't lie to us. And the funny thing is I'm kind of laughing at him. And I go, well, I hope you don't think the Earth is flat. Well, that was me 30 years ago. And now I know we didn't go to the moon. And now I think the Earth is flat. But anyways, it's kind of funny. Above are two versions of the same satellite images. The image on the left is, in essence, a filtered image, as only standard infrared imagery was used. The image on the right, enhanced infrared, clearly reveals expansive climate engineering operations over the western U.S. NASA tells us that the extremely long trails shown in satellite images below are just ship tracks. Ship tracks, okay. Didn't know ships left tracks. But does the official narrative hold up to examination of the facts? I don't know, those ship trails. Yeah, it's so sickening. I'm so sick of NASA. All those people in the so-called space station. Can you imagine how filthy that would have to be? It'd be disgusting. There's no way. And one little leak and they'd all be dead. There's no way there is a space station up there. Absolutely no way. I mean, you got to use a vacuum cleaner to go to the bathroom? Huh. Just, I don't get too crude, but just think of lost suction here. All right, I'll stop. NASA's so-called ship tracks over oceans frequently do not conform to established shipping lanes and are far too uniform over far too great a distance to be ship tracks. The massive zones of artificial haze and cloud cover that are now common around the world are exactly what is described as an objective for marine layer enhancement, a form of climate engineering. Well, I think all these are just chemtrails. I don't know, maybe they are using ships and spraying them out there too. It's something I have never observed, so I guess they're doing it. I've certainly observed the airplanes doing it. Anybody that watches my site and sees all my pictures, and a lot of other people that are doing the same thing, so we just keep doing it. I don't know what good it does, but at least we can thumb our nose at the powers that be and let them know that we know. So that was there. Page 8. Oh, we're already on to page 8. We'll see if we can get through this today. Okay, here we are at page 9, and we got a picture of Manchester, UK, and a picture of Phoenix in Arizona. So that's not too far from Charlie Mitchell in London, who I'm subscribed to, and Phoenix is not too far from Palm Desert, where I have my business. So it's going on there, it's going on here. Okay, federal activities and weather modification, and this was looks like a federal document here. Robert Morrison, specialist in earth science, Science Policy Research Division, Congressional Research Service. Overview of federal activities. The federal government has been involved for over 30 years in a number of aspects of weather modification through activities of both Congress and executive branch since 1947. Well, there you go. That was right when Trump's uncle was going through Nikola Tesla's research and deciding how they could use his research for weather control. And the military, who else gets their hands on it? Of course, the military-industrial complex. So, since 1947, weather modification bills pertaining to research, support, operations, policy studies, regulations, liabilities, activities, reporting, establishment of panels and committees, and international concerns have been introduced in the Congress. There have been hearings on many of these proposal measures, and oversight hearings have also been conducted on a pertinent ongoing programs. Total of 6 public laws specifically on weather modification have been enacted since 1953. That was before I was born, so it's been going on, like he says, 70 years. And it's just amping up and amping up and amping up, and it's just going to continue to amp up. While others have included provisions which in some way are relevant to weather modification, resolutions dealing with the use of weather modification technology as weapon by U.S. military forces, promotion of UN treaty prohibiting such activities have been introduced in both houses of the Congress, and one such resolution was passed by the Senate. I wonder when this was actually written. So it was 30 years since 47, whenever it was written. Then it goes on, federal legislation is dealt principally with these aspects of weather modification, research program, authorization and direction, collection, reporting of weather modification activities, and the commissioning of major studies on recommended federal policy and the status of technology, in addition to providing direction through authorizing legislation. The Congress has initiated one of major federal program through an appropriations bill write-in, and this program has since regularly received support through additional appropriations beyond recommended OMB funding. Identifiable federal research and operational weather modifications programs can be traced from at least the period of World War II. However, the research programs of most agencies, other than the Defense Department, were not begun until the 50s and 60s. And then it cuts off from there. Do official documents exist which would implicate U.S. government involvement in global weather modification climate intervention programs. Yes. The document excerpt that I just let excerpt to the left was taken from a 750-page U.S. Senate report released in 1978. Okay, that's what I was wondering, the date of it. One of many available government reports which specifically address government climate modification programs and operations. And it gives a link for a PDF file for the full document. And if you want to read it, no thanks. I already know they're doing it. And our government's so corrupt. It is absolutely corrupt. Like I said, we've lost our complete sovereignty. Our Congress is a joke. It's just awful. And then the photo on the left there, another one from Manchester, supposedly where that bomb went off. I don't believe it. Another false flag guys, just like Sandy Hook and Boston bombing. And then you got Alex Jones coming out and getting interviewed by Megyn Kelly. What a sellout that broad is. Yeah, anyways, don't even get me started on that stuff. Alex Jones is a sellout. He probably always was. I think he started off like a lot of these people probably to expose this stuff, but you know, he's backing off on Sandy Hook not being staged. No kids died there, guys. I can assure you, it was all set up. Wolfgang Halbig, and just look at what happened. What's the true story of saying? Just go on the internet and look at the videos that people put together that have their own little specific research part that they did. There's a couple really good videos. I'll post a link to it. And then Wolfgang Halbig was a guy that he would go around. He was a school principal. He was a Florida State Trooper, but he was a guy that was going around helping schools set up. He was like one of the first guys that went to Columbine after that happened. Well, anyways, he was just going, man, all the protocols that were broken at Sandy Hook, he was just going, something's not right here. And then he went up there and stood before the school board, and it was so obvious. And then the police department, they were all in on it. They were all in. When he was sitting before the school board and he was just laying into them, these ladies in there, the looks on their faces were like, oh no, what did we get ourselves into? It is. And if they dare say anything, who knows? And that town up there, where that took place, it's a satanic town. The people are all Satanists up there. I mean, not all of them, but all those people up there. It's a big satanic cult up there. So that's a whole nother story. Chasing another rabbit trail again. So that was page 9. So we're almost halfway through this. Okay, yet more damning excerpts from the 700-page U.S. Senate Federal Weather Modification document are below. And it was from one of the last page. International aspects of weather modification. Recent years have seen increased international awareness of potential benefits, the possible risk of weather modification technology, and increased international efforts to control such activities. The major efforts of international community in this area are to encourage and maintain high-level cooperation with currently existing weather reporting and research to ensure the man's new abilities will be used for peaceful purposes. Isn't that nice? Yeah, they're going to use them for peaceful purposes. They're killing us with it rather than as a weapons of war. No, they're using them as weapons of war on us. This two-sided approach is evident in the activities of the United States, which strongly encourage and supported cooperative efforts to gain knowledge of the weather. At the same time, has endeavored to restrict the use of this knowledge to peaceful purposes through the adoption of international agreements. Yeah, right, the UN. Now, don't even get me started on all those people. The UN was created as a new world order. Weather research and reporting has long been one of the areas having the closest international cooperation. Well, there you go. Because of the global nature of weather systems, making the prediction of weather in one area dependent on reported weather in other parts of the world. Cooperation and exchange information and techniques of weather research and reporting are necessities. This cooperation transcends ideological differences, and hostilities. International cooperation in the exchange of ideas on and methods of weather modification have also been extensive. And then over on the other side, economic aspects of weather modification. Warren Weissman, Senior Special Engineering and Public Works, Congressional Service. Several weather modification processes have been economic implications of great insignificance. Many sectors of agricultural industry, commerce may reap benefits or sustain losses as a shift of history, weather trends. The difficulty is that until the technology is more highly developed and control system perfected to permit reliable predictions of outcomes, attempts to quantify benefits and cost will in many cases be more academic than practical. Okay, well, we know what they're doing, and look what the Central Valley here in California. I mean, so many farmers have just lost everything because of this drought, this intentional drought. And there doesn't need to be a drought. And there's plenty of water. Do some research on what's called primary water. There's plenty of water in underground. There's plenty of water. There's plenty of water. The earth makes its own water. And it's pure water too. It's not contaminated. But anyways, they're just like all the technology that's beneficial to mankind. They cover up and hide. Tesla was a good guy. He wanted to help humanity. Edison was just a greedy jerk. Who knows? He's probably one of the Freemason, Luciferian creeps himself. The yellow highlighted statements on the document above are of particular interest. In summary, this U.S. Senate document calls for the complete cooperation with normal adversarial nations due to cross-border ramifications for climate engineering, and major powers are covering up for each other on this most critical issue. Yeah, and if they do say anything, anybody comes out and tries to speak out, what happens? There's Switzerland. Man, lovely sky there, huh? Nyon, Switzerland, on the left there, and Livingston County, Michigan. Wow, look at that. Okay, I ran out of juice. My camera shut off right there. I think I was right here at these pictures here. Switzerland and Michigan. Pretty intense. Knoxville, Tennessee, and Palmdale, California. Yep, it's going on everywhere. So that was page 10. You're halfway through it. And I'm shooting this on my camera, so I'm not sure how this is going to come out. Hopefully it's okay to post. We'll see. Okay, here we're at page 11. Any form of climate intervention must also be considered a form of weather and biological warfare due to the long list of catastrophic downstream climate consequences and the biosphere contamination that are both directly and indirectly a result of these programs. So yes, I absolutely agree. It's not just weather modification, but it's also biological warfare on us. I mean, these are poisons they're dumping on us. Aluminum and I mean, look how toxic aluminum is. And there's a guy named Russell Blaylock, and he didn't believe it at first. I think he's a he's retired now, MD. Anyways, he talks about how the effects of these toxicities, when you mix them together, it's not just, you have a tenfold on the aluminum and the toxicity rate, but when you put them all together, it's not just 10 plus 10 plus 10. It's like 10 times 100 times 100 times 100. So the toxicity just increases when you mix these ingredients together. So anyways, are there yet more recent government documents that address global weather modification, climate intervention proposals, and programs? Yes, again, image to the right. Engineering the climate research needs and Strategies for International Cooperation report by Chairman Bart Gordon. Committee on Science and Technology, U.S. House of Representatives, 111 Congress, blah, 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 blah. Make me puke. Even in the 50s, Collier's magazine article addressed the rapidly expanding climate modification industry, which our government has since taken a position of total denial. Yeah, this picture right here, it's amazing. That's from the 50s. When I first saw it, I thought it was like, a recent picture, but that picture is that old. You wouldn't dare put that out there now. Are scientists willing to deny the climate engineering solar radiation management reality on the record? No. On Friday, October 7, 2016, geoengineeringwatch.org and the Legal Alliance to Stop Geoengineering, LASG, carried out a simple survey that involved 1,518 climate scientists and experts. 100% of scientists/experts surveyed refused to deny climate engineering reality on the record. How much longer can the climate engineering atrocities be hidden from the public in plain sight? When will climate science community decide to start telling the truth about ongoing global geoengineering climate intervention assault? And there's a picture on the left there from Spain. Estrado Cantabarriera. How do you say that? And Madrid. There's an easy one to pronounce. And from Madrid. So that was page 11. Okay, here we have a picture from 1959, March 7th. A submarine. Looks like in the North Pole. For many decades, global power centers and the many sources of media they control have effectively fueled the division and confusion of populations in regard to the true extent of damage to the climate systems. This historical submarine photo was recovered from the U.S. Navy Historical Archives. Why is this photo so significant? Because it reveals a U.S. Navy submarine surfaced in open water at the North Pole. Well, I don't see any ice. At the height of the Arctic ice expansion season in 1959. The sea ice at this location at the time of year when this photo was taken should have been 2 or 3 meters thick, but there was none. Even prior to World War II, those in power were well aware of the rapidly accelerating warming of the planet due to anthropogenic activities. Again, anthropogenic means man's activities and just our effects on the biosphere. Since the acceleration of industrial revolution, there has been ongoing tug-of-war being played out in the climate system. The buildup of greenhouse gases, to some degree, counter-reacted by the buildup of sun-blocking pollution particulates in the atmosphere by 1945, when the first progressive phase of anthropogenic planetary warming was skyrocketing. The greenhouse gas buildup began to completely overwhelm the cooling, sun-blocking effect of the atmosphere, aerosols, pollution. Yeah, I remember growing up in LA in the San Gabriel Valley, and the pollution, the air pollution, man, it was just awful. I lived right in the foothills, and some days you couldn't even see a mile. You couldn't even see the foothills that were right there because there was so much smog. It was nasty. So yeah, there is some anthropogenic truth to the global warming, but I don't know how much. The main factor is obviously what they're doing. I mean, you can't put tons and tons of these metallic nanoparticles in the atmosphere and then zap them with, Tesla technology and not destroy the planet. That's really what they're doing. I mean, I don't know how much longer we have, but just God's got his hand on it. He's got his hand on it. It's not like he's doesn't know what's going on. Immediately after the end of World War II, without the knowledge or consent of the populations, a coordinated global climate engineering Manhattan Project was deployed. By spraying additional particles into the atmosphere with aircraft, global powers were able to mask the greenhouse gas buildup for several decades. But we must consider this. At what cost does this temporary reprieve come in regard to the overall web of life? I'm not sure if I agree with that with this on Dane. How much effect, I don't know. I'm not sure. Anyways, primary objective of climate engineering solar radiation management program is to blot out the sun. Global dimming is the science term that describes the percentage of the sun's direct rays that no longer reach the surface of the earth as compared to the mid-20th century. Astoundingly, current figures put global dimming at a nearly 30% in many parts of the planet. Blocking the sun has decreased overall evaporation and overall atmospheric relative humidity. There's a little graph here on relative humidity. I guess that's 1948. Oh, and there's the percentage of the humidity. I'm not real good at reading graphs. Don't ask me to explain it. I wouldn't do a good job. And there's a picture of Portal, California. The atmosphere can carry 7% more moisture every degree in Celsius of warming. The laws of physics make clear that a warming planet must create more overall rain unless there is a factor that is not being publicly disclosed. That factor is highly toxic covert climate engineering assault. Extreme deluges will also increase in spite of, and in many cases because of, climate engineering. Okay, well, that's the whole weather whiplash stuff that's going on. And there we go. Page 12. Okay, here. The answer to the question of why engineer the climate? Well, because they can and they're psychopaths. That's what I say. Just got man with Satan behind him trying to control God's creation. And that's really what it boils down to. This really is a spiritual battle. There's much more going on in the spiritual dimension that Dane is completely oblivious to. He's not a believer. He says he's read all the Bible and read all the religious stuff, but no, Dane, until you are able to look at the bigger picture and understand we're in a spiritual battle, it's a cosmic spiritual battle that we are in. It's really a battle between good and evil, and God and Jesus and creation. And we're kind of here in the middle of it for whatever reason. But one thing is God did send His only Son, that whosoever believes in Him, would not perish. So that's all you got to do. That's it. That's Christianity in a nutshell. Is just accepting what Jesus Christ did on the cross by His shed blood, and believing in that, and then giving your life to Him and saying, Lord. So I don't understand what's going on in this world. I certainly don't understand why, I took my son, but I know Colton's in a better place. Anyways, I don't want to get off track here. Start over. The answer to the questions of why engineer the climate is so complex, as there are a great many objectives and agendas being carried out simultaneously. Again, the stated purpose of geoengineering and solar radiation management (SRM) program is mitigation for global warming, but is really the primary overall objective? No, it's multi-level, and again, just like I just said, it's there's a huge spiritual element behind this. It's a huge. That's really the bigger part of it. This isn't just man. This is Satan. The geoengineers have tried to claim that the spraying the atmosphere of highly reflective light scattering particulates like aluminum, they can reflect enough of the sun's incoming thermal energy to counter-react the greenhouse gas buildup and thus cool the planet. Is it working after 70 years of constantly escalating and expanding climate intervention programs? All available data makes the following conclusion clear. The short-term and highly toxic climate intervention cool-downs at the cost of actually fueling the overall long-term warming of the planet. In summary, climate engineering is making an already dire climate disintegration scenario far worse in the long term. The NOAA forecast schedule, which is all done by Raytheon, who holds all the patents to the, Bernard Eastland was his name. He developed many of the geoengineering stuff, and Raytheon now has them, and Raytheon also does the weather modeling, so they got their hand in it all. NOAA forecasting scheduled weather map below is a glaring example of a recent completely engineered cool down. Temperature scenarios like the one revealed in this NOAA map are completely unnatural and historically unprecedented. Yeah, that's the right word. You know what it is. Record warmth on the east and west coast with a bullseye of chemical ice nucleated. Record cold in the center of the country. Okay, well there you go, right there. Hot, hot, hot. Cold. I mean, when do you see a weather pattern like that? That's totally unnatural. I mean, the weather patterns used to come off the pole there, and it would dip down, and they would swing across. You get a cold front coming through, and it would, sometimes it would dip further down than others. That's why even in Los Angeles, we would always get more rain for the year than like San Diego. Was because, sometimes it wouldn't dip, and then it would work its way across the country. Well, you don't see that type of weather patterns at all anymore. So, anyways. The color-coded forecast map reflects possibilities of over 25 degrees above normal on both coasts, with anomalies of 25 degrees below normal in the center of the country. Again, such weather whiplash scenarios are meteorologically unprecedented and are a direct result of climate engineering. Covert global engineering programs are trapping more overall heat in the lower atmosphere than is deflected, completely disrupting the global hydrological cycle, the rain cycle, destroying the ozone layer, and thus radically increasing lethal UV radiation. Yeah, you can go outside and just feel it. I mean, even on a cool day, it's just intense. That sun's rays is just intense. Contaminating the entire surface of the planet along with breathable air column, disrupting upper level wind currents and subsequently ocean currents. And there's a picture, South Wales, UK, and a picture from Mohannesi, Germany. Never heard of that place. Oh, and there was page 13. Who is behind the climate engineering solar radiation management operations? All roads lead back to those who print the money. Yep, that's just, well, there you go. Thank you, Dane, for mentioning them. The private bankers that run the Federal Reserve, those who control the money, control militaries, and thus countries. Yeah, it was the first Rothschild's character that said, "Give me control of a nation's currency, and I care not who makes its laws." So, that's all we got to do is get rid of them. And debt, there would be no debt. They can go screw themselves. Federal Reserve, I don't owe you nothing. They just make money up out of nothing, and then they sell it to us on, face value, and then charge us interest on it. What a scam. So, anyways, and their politicians are just useless. But anyways, let's get back to this pamphlet here. Government implements illegal gag order on National Weather Service and NOAA employees. Why aren't government scientists and agencies like the National Weather Service, NWS, and the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, speaking out about the ongoing climate engineering operations? Question mark. U.S. government scientists have no First Amendment protection. See, even our freedom of speech is now gone. We don't even have freedom of speech anymore. And the media is so controlled. I mean, I don't believe anybody hardly anymore. Even some of these Christian guys I used to listen to, that were so-called, telling us what was going on. I don't trust them. I don't trust any of them. I really don't. But anyways, I think it's us little guys that we need to depend on and that are observing this, and because sooner or later you get big on the internet and they'll come after you. They'll put the gag order on you or tell you what you can say and what you can't say. So there is no freedom of speech anymore, guys. I mean, sure, it's not as bad as a communist country, because a communist country, you said one thing against the government and you were hauled off, whether you were a prisoner or not. I had a lunch with a friend of mine yesterday that escaped. She was in World War II, and there when little girl, when Hitler took over, her father was a Lutheran pastor there against the resistance. He was friends with Dietrich Bonhoeffer, another Lutheran pastor that went over there. He was German, but he was over here. He could have stayed over here. Went back to Germany to help his country out. They ended up hanging him. And that's what happened to Addie's father. They put him in prison 4 times for speaking out against the Nazis, and they didn't hang him, but he got tuberculosis because of the living conditions, and they just sent him home to die. They knew he was dying anyway, so just whatever. They basically already killed him. So, and then they divided up Germany, cut it right in half, and half became communist and half became, free. I mean, and she had relatives on the west side, and they try to help out, but it was bad. Her stories are bad. And then she told me how she escaped yesterday. She was on a train, and they check your papers, and if you don't have the proper papers, because they're, free people could go into Germany and come back out. But if you were, behind the Iron Curtain when they set it up, you were there to stay. And that's when you finally got older, they let you go a lot of times. But anyways, she had an interesting story. She's a little small gal at 17 years old. She hit on a train and got to the West and had some relatives there that helped her, and that's her story. Now she's here. Pretty amazing. So, where was I? Getting off on another rabbit trail. Gives a web link to National Weather Service, NOAA. The excerpt below is from a peer, Public Employees for Environmental Responsibility Report on the illegal federal gag order. This summer, the National Weather Service began requiring signed confidentiality agreement. These agreements purport to bind NWSEO representatives from communicating with its members of Congress or any other persons regarding agencies' plans and how they are determined. These agreements also do not contain terms allowing reports of actual impending law or rule violations, gross mismanagement, waste, or abuse. National Weather Service, NOAA, and Commerce are presently implementing and enforcing non-disclosure agreements which violate the law. Yeah, it's violating freedom of speech. I mean, obviously, if you're like a military contractor and you're keeping military secrets, but even then, our military-industrial complex is not run by Congress. It's run by the Federal Reserve, just like Dane was saying, and I'm saying. It's our country is totally taken over. Here's a headline, an article excerpt from Canada. How scientists being muzzled. How are scientists being muzzled? Federal scientists have been restricted from publicly talking about their research. In 2006, the Harper government introduced, I think Harper, he wasn't he the prime minister up there? Yeah, I think so, yeah, at Canada. Introduced strict procedures around how its scientists are allowed to speak about their research to the media. In the past, journalists were generally able to contact scientists directly for any interviews, but after these new directives, they had to go through government communication offices. Well, there you go. You got to go to the government to interview somebody. They tell you if you can interview them or not. And then they tell you what you can say, but the media's it's all propaganda anymore anyways. I don't even listen to him. I don't listen to Rush Limbaugh. He's a sell. Sean Hannity, he's probably one of the better ones, but still, he's a sellout, making whatever he does, $30,000 a show or some ridiculous amount. Anyways. And scientists had to get a pre-approval from their ministers of office before speaking to members of national and international media, a process that can involve drafting potential questions and answers. Well, see, there you go. They're scripting what you can question and how you can answer them, which are then scrutinized by a team before the green light is given. So, again, the same process of total science censorship is occurring in countless other countries. And there's a picture there in Nevada, Hawthorne, Nevada. Yeah, that's a real normal looking sky. Again. So, that was page 14. Okay, and these are all NextRad stations, and this is how they zap it. It's twofold NextRad towers. They have a lot of power, and they can also, they show where it is raining, but they also can zap the atmosphere. So I think NextRad's towers, and I've seen them. There's one here in Poway, and there's one on the way to Mammoth here on the backside of old 395. It's just sitting out there in the desert. NextRad tower. It looks like a golf ball on the top of a tower. So they're around. I think there's a couple hundred of them, and it's next generation radar. And I think they about the early 90s they implemented, late 80s, early 90s. So that was really, their goal. Everybody thinks they're just watching the rain, but they're not. These towers are used to zap the particulates in the skies, and that's how they can stall out systems or increase systems, create tornadoes, hurricanes. I mean, they can do it all, even earthquakes. And Tesla, this is actually Tesla technology. Tesla knew all about this. And again, Donald Trump's uncle was the guy who went through Tesla's research and information and decided how that information could be used for military purposes. So, what do you think? You don't think Trump knows about all this? Are there other unseen dangers associated with the ongoing covert climate intervention programs? Question mark. Yes. Massively powerful and dangerous radio frequency transmissions are used to manipulate the electrically conductive jet aircraft sprayed nanoparticles, thus, in turn, manipulates air masses and weather. Okay, that's just what I said. And then here's one here. Most mainstream media radar images are highly filtered so that the public does not see the blatant radio frequency, microwave precipitation, manipulation like shown on the image above. And I used to watch these things. I did it for a couple years, and I just got bored with it. I don't know what's going on. But I used to watch our local NextRad. I was kind of trying to figure out how they're being used. See if I kind of just, by watching them, decipher how they're zapping it. But like right here, look at this. I mean, perfect square. Right there. Now, how does that happen? Well, it's because it's being zapped. And then over here, the precipitation manipulating radio frequency microwave transmission signal above is from a transmitter site southwest of Eureka, California. So it's a NextRad station right there in Eureka. And there's one here in San Diego in Poway, and then there's one up in the LA area, and then there's one at Edwards Air Force Base up in that area. And then there's Yuma, Arizona, did I say that? So those are like the four here in the Southern California, 4 or 5 here in the Southern California area. So these things are extremely powerful. I mean, if they can manipulate the weather with 4 or 5 of these things, it just shows how powerful they are. And there's, I don't know how many massive amounts of energy they can crank these things up to. Again, why would governments wish to engineer global climate systems? And again, the more appropriate question is this: why wouldn't Completely corrupt and criminalized governments want to engage in patented climate geoengineering operations to serve their own purposes and agendas. Well, that's level one, what I call it. You know, it's man trying to control the weather. This is Morongo Valley. I've seen like this out there. I think this picture is this Ron Morgan guy, a little enhanced. I've never seen quite that intense, but actually, actually I have, because if I put my sunglasses on, I have tinted windows in my car. Sometimes I'll see the clouds look like this, with these different colors in there, with the filtering of my sunglasses and the tinted windows. So I don't. It's probably he's got some kind of filter on that camera that's allowing these colors to come through. But I've seen it too myself. And there's Reno, Nevada over there. So there you go. There's page 15, 3/4 of the way. Climate modification and microwave transmissions. Populations are blindly accepting and ignoring the dangerous radio frequencies. Microwave transmission towers that are increasingly being constructed throughout our country and the world. If you thought the transmission towers were only for cell phone signals repeating, this is not the case. And that's what I've been saying. That's what I've been saying. These things, and they're popping up everywhere. They are popping up everywhere. These cell towers. I mean, there's just one, and they're hiding them. You know, okay, and I could see it in a nice area. We don't want to see it in an ugly tower, so we make it look like a tree. Yeah, well. And why do they need so many of them? We're data, and supposedly when they're going to 5G here, I mean, I think it's about mind control and zapping us. They want us all dead. They want to get the population down to, less than 1 billion, half of, they don't need us anymore. These people are just, they're sick. They're controlled by Satan, ultimately. So, anyways, there's a cell tower there. And this looks like HARP over here. I'll just read it. Radio frequency microwave transmission towers in Redding, California. Photo, Jovita, that's Dane's wife. Took that one. Yeah, look at this. So is that one zapped? That's what I wonder about. I've made videos of the one across my way here at the sports field that's up there. They put lights on it, and I was complaining a few months ago, and my tree hadn't grown leaves on it because it was wintertime, and it was the lights were shining right in my window, and I kept sending the emails, and I actually started telling the guy the thing was zapping us too. He's probably going, man, this guy is nuts. So, anyways, kind of funny. It's like, no, dude, I'm serious. I'm serious. You don't know what that thing's doing to you and your family up there. You're sitting there, watching everybody play soccer and baseball. Okay, the massively powerful HARP ionosphere heater transmitter in Alaska, and they have a bunch of these all over the place in many countries. I'm not sure how much they use them anymore, if it was more experimental. And here's a big NexRad on a ship, so they can move that thing. Imagine the power that thing has to zap the atmosphere. Sea-based X-band radio frequency microwave transmission platform. And then over here's another one, SBX transmission platform. Interior transmitter. Another big old zapper. There's a guy right there. Look at the comparison to him and the size of that thing. And then here is a NASA satellite image. Again, I don't believe satellites are up there. I think it's high weather balloons. I don't think we can get past whatever the layer up there and whatever's beyond the layer. The firmament, as the Bible calls it. I don't think we can get through the firmament. And then the radiation, the Van Allen belts. I think that's a bunch of hogwash too. I think the Van Allen belts is the firmament they can't get through. And how did they get through the Van Allen belts to get to the moon? All this space stuff. It's why I don't listen to Steve Quayle anymore. I don't trust the guy. I mean, all he talks about, you go to his site, I don't know if anybody knows who Steve Quayle is. Supposedly a Christian guy. I've listened to for years. 15 years I've followed that guy's site. And he's off in the Nephilim and all kinds of stuff, which I somewhat believe all that stuff. It's in the Bible. They're hybrid beings. Some people don't believe it. But anyways, the ongoing atmospheric aerosol spraying and microwave radio frequency transmissions are wreaking havoc with the Earth's life support systems. Okay, what was that? Page 16. Scroll Scroll down once more. And there you go. Okay, the willful spraying of highly toxic climate engineering particles into the Earth's atmosphere with jet aircraft is inflicting unimaginable damage to the entire web of life. In addition to the climate system, aluminum and barium are primary element named in climate engineering programs. Yeah, and who knows what else? I mean, they're spraying on us. Because I see different colors all the time in these jets spraying. You know, some will have like a blue tint to them, and some will have like a rainbow look to them. And in fact, the one on my site, I took that picture of that Delta jet. I tried to make it look to where it fit into my header on my YouTube page, but I took that picture of a Delta jet, and I've got quite a few pictures like that. I mean, there's no way that is a contrail. Anyways, bees with Alzheimer's. Aluminum pollution leaked to dementia in bees. Well, I've got my business. I have a lot of older clients, and I have just seen Alzheimer's and dementia. And I have this one lady, sweetest lady. She went from like, I don't know, 150 pounds to like 80 pounds and just severe Parkinson's. I mean, she gets around, but I mean, her arms are flailing all over the place. She can hardly walk, but it's just sad. And I'm convinced it's from the spraying. You know, some people it's going to affect more than others, like, you know, the canary in the coal mine. So, and there's a well over here. Science discovered jaw-dropping levels of heavy metals found in wells. Well, that's surprising. Dementia, Alzheimer's became Britain's biggest killer. Well, there you go. Autism linked to particulate air pollution. Scientific America. Yeah. Massive global tree die-off linked to geoengineering. Aluminum contents of human milk cows, and infant formulas. Journal of Pediatric Gastrointestinal, whatever it is. You guys know what those guys are. Keep your gut in check, and nutrition. So that was this page. And on to the next one. Looks like we're going to get this done. Okay, well, there you go. Here's Russell Blaylock. He's a good guy. He's a Christian man. And he didn't believe the geoengineer at first. He didn't believe the spraying. And he's in the Midwest. He's retired now. Good guy. And him and his wife sitting out on the porch there. And he started, and he had heard about the chemtrails and everything. He's like, what a poppycock that is. But he started seeing it and going, you know, something's going on here. So anyways, he really looked into it, and I've read a lot of his stuff. He's good. So anyways, sounding the alarm. Are any top medical professionals speaking out about the highly toxic heavy metal climate engineering fallout and the devastating effects it's having on human health? Yes, though the majority of medical and industrial complex community has not yet been willing to openly address the critical climate engineering issue on record. One renowned medical practitioner has shown exceptional courage by sounding a dire alarm over geoengineering. Yeah, he's a good guy, like I say. Dr. Russell Blaylock. The health dangers posed by the ongoing illegal global geoengineering programs are immense and worsening rapidly. Russell L. Blaylock, MD, is a nationally recognized board-certified neurosurgeon and recipient of the Integrity in Science Award granted by Weston A. Price Foundation. Dr. Blaylock also serves on the editorial staffs of the Journal of the American Nutraceutical Associates, neurosurgeons, Surgical Neurology International, and the Journal of American Physicians and Surgeons. And this is what Russell has to say, Dr. Blaylock. My major concern is that there is evidence that they are spraying tons of nano-sized aluminum compound. It has been demonstrated in the scientific and medical literature that nano-sized particles are infinitely more reactive and induce intense inflammation in a number of issues. Of special concern is the effect of these nanoparticles on the brain and spinal cord. As a growing list of neurodegenerative diseases, including Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, I've seen this firsthand, disease, Lou Gehrig's disease, LAS. That's what Hawking has. Stephen Hawking, he's controlled too. I mean, they're keeping him alive. Are strongly related to exposure to environmental aluminum. Nanoparticles of aluminum are not only infinitely more inflammatory, they also easily penetrate the brain by a number of routes, including the blood and olfactoral nerves, the smell nerves through your nose. Okay, never knew that was the word for your sense of smell. Anyways, learn something every day. Studies have shown that these particles pass along the olfactory neutral tract, which connect directly to the area of the brain that is not only most affected by Alzheimer's disease, it's actually Alzheimer's, but also the earliest affected in the course of the disease. It also has the highest level of brain aluminum in an Alzheimer's cases. Their intransnasal route of exposure makes spraying of massive amounts of nanoaluminum into the sky especially hazardous, as it will be inhaled by people of all ages, including babies and small children, for many hours. We know that older people have the greatest reaction to this airborne aluminum because of the nanosizing of the aluminum particles being used. Home filtering systems will not remove the aluminum, thus prolonging exposure even indoors. In addition to inhaling nanoaluminum, such spraying will saturate the ground, water, vegetation. High levels of aluminum, normally aluminum is poorly absorbed. Normally aluminum is poorly absorbed from the GI tract, but nanoaluminum is absorbed in a much higher amounts. This absorbed aluminum has been shown to be distributed to a number of organs and tissues, including the brain and spinal cord. Inhaling this environmentally suspended nanoaluminum will also produce tremendous inflammatory reaction within the lungs, which will pose a significant hazard to children and adults with asthma and pulmonary disease. I pray the pilots who are spraying this dangerous substance fully understand that they are destroying the life and health of their families. Yeah, I've been saying that too. Every time I take pictures of these guys, I'm thinking, you pilots, I need my pension. Yeah, when you're dead, spraying your own family. I don't speak out, people. I'm just tired of the whole human race in general. It's guys like Russell Blaylock that kind of make you believe in humanity once again. This is also true of our political officials. Yeah, totally. They're corrupt. Steps need to be taken now to prevent an impending health disaster of enormous proportions if this project is not stopped immediately. Otherwise, we will see an explosive increase in neurodegenerative diseases occurring in adults and the elderly in unprecedented rates, as well as neurological development disorders in our children. We are already seeing a dramatic increase in these neurological disorders, and it is occurring in younger people more than ever, ever before. So, and again, like what I was saying, Russell Blaylock also talks about when you mix these ingredients together, it just becomes a toxic soup that is even way more toxic than if you were just too exposed to these elements alone. And there's a picture in Las Vegas, Nevada. And there's a picture in Redding that Dane's wife took. So, yeah, it's bad. And the whole thing is they want us dead. They want to get rid of the population. What a way to do it, right? And then people don't even know what's going on. I don't believe them. You try to tell them, and they just look at you like you're nuts. How can we stop the ongoing climate engineering weather warfare assault? Of all the challenges faced by human race and life on Earth, the global engineering assault is mathematically the most dire, immediate, short of nuclear catalysm, I guess that's how you say it. The effect to fully expose and subsequently halt climate engineering is the great imperative of our time. Once we reach critical mass of awareness and the geoengineering atrocities are fully visible to all the rest of the wills in the battle will begin to turn on their own as a significant percentage of the population understands they are facing a fight for their life. I don't know how true that is. It seems like with everything going on, I don't know if it's the cell towers that are affecting people or the fluoride, or I mean, it's just probably a combination of all of them. But it seems like people just don't, cognitive dissonance, normalcy bias. And in some ways, I guess I don't blame them. I don't know why I know about this stuff, and I'm not afraid to look at it. But a lot of people, it scares them. It scares my wife. It took her a year to convince her that the spraying is real. Is when she finally did was she was backpacking up in the high Sierras with some friends, her girlfriends, and she was watching the spraying up there, and she was going, "All right, Dan's right." It's like, yeah, I've been trying to tell you. So, anyways. She thinks I'm a little OCD on all this stuff, but it's just my personality anyways. As those in the U.S. military and their families realize they are being used against their own citizens. I don't even know. I don't know how true that is. You know, a lot of guys go in the military with good intentions, but they're brainwashed. They're programmed. I was programmed too. I was all, hey, support our troops. And after 9/11, it was like, yeah, go get the bad guys. And here it turns out they brought down the towers. And like Dane says, he says it was controlled demolition. He's all in with Richard Gage and architects and engineers and those guys. But no, I want to do a video like this on Dr. Judy Wood's book, Where Did the Towers Go? And let me show you this right there. I'm probably blurry. Show up. There you go. Where did the towers go? I mean, anyways, this book is huge, and it's scientific forensic evidence of how they brought it down. They brought the towers down with Tesla technology, where at a molecular level, at a molecular level, would usually hold that atoms and nuclei and molecules together. They have a technology that forces them to not act normally and just come apart, and that's why the building just turned to dust. It was not controlled demolition. There was some there, obviously, from the first explosions of the fake planes hitting the buildings and on and on and on like that. But I need to get motivated here and do a video on that. And anybody that's ever interviewed Judy Wood in the beginning, they're all silenced. They've all been silenced, and they won't touch her. They've probably been threatened with their lives. So anyways, back to, as those in the U.S. military and their families realize they are being used against their own citizens. Yeah, right. The current paradigm can be shifted. I don't know how true that is, Dane. Awareness raising, links, instructions, and free downloadable geoengineeringwatch.org information flyers are available on the homepage of our site. I've got a bunch of them. I hand them out to people. They're great. Actually, my friend Yvonne was the one that designed those flyers. She was head of this site until she was termed Dane. A long story, but he didn't treat her right. There was a guy that's infiltrated geoengineeringwatch.org. So Dane is somewhat controlled, but he still has got a lot of good information. This is right here. So we must prevail in the battle to expose and halt climate engineering, or all is lost. We will sink or swim together. All are needed in the critical effort to sound the alarm. What will you do? As the unfolding biosphere social collapse continues, societal collapse continues to accelerate, what will your part in all this important effort to salvage what is left of Earth's life support systems? We must make our voices heard, but there is yet time to make a difference. Time is not on our side. So yeah, these are great. I mean, that's all for it. There's Dane there. All this stuff's great. So, okay. One more page to go. Covert Global climate engineering programs are the single most environmentally destructive assault on the human race has ever unleashed against nature and the entire web of life. The list of catastrophic environmental and human health consequences directly connected to the ongoing climate engineering insanity makes these programs mathematically the greatest and most immediate threat we collectively face short of nuclear catalysm. Climate scientists claim that solar radiation management is the final option for cooling down our rapidly warming world. But is that the truth? Are climate intervention, in quotes, programs actually mitigating the unfolding planetary meltdown? Question mark. Or further fueling it overall? Well, they're fueling it overall. How can we expose and halt the global geoengineering homicide? I think it's genocide, homicide. Maybe it means the same. Not sure what homicide means. Before it's too late. Dane Wigington, geoengineeringwatch.org. I admire Dane in a lot of ways. I don't agree with him on some stuff, but you know, who do all agree on or not disagree on? But anyways, good flyer or a little pamphlet. I'll order some. I've supported Dane site in the past. Kind of ticked me off what he did to my friend Yvonne, but let bygones be bygones. But really, guys, you know, the bottom line here is this place isn't going to get better. Whatever Dane does and lawsuits he files, you know, Judy Wood filed a lawsuit through a key tam case, and the key tam case was actually set up by Abraham Lincoln during the Civil War, and it was where you know, if they were making faulty cannons, private to help the war, you know, let's say a canyon manufacturer, and they made a defective canyon, a private citizen to help the government could take him to court privately, kind of like as a whistleblower. Well, that's what Judy Wood did against NIST, who did the final report on the World Trade Centers. And there were 7 buildings that came down that day. It wasn't just the 2 towers and Building 7. Every single building that was prefixed with, you know, as the WCT, World Trade Center, was destroyed that day. Was destroyed. And there's some other things. Like I said, I need to do that. But anyways, the bottom line in all this, guys, is, I lost my train of thought. Her case was thrown out. She got all the way to a level of the Supreme Court, got in there. The judge first asked her if she had a death wish. The judge asked her that, so he was controlled. It's probably one of the Luciferian elites. They set her up in a court that was already rigged against her. And then he threw the case out, saying that he wasn't going to do a conspiracy theory case on reopening what happened to JFK or, you know, these other. He said something else, and she's like, this has nothing to do with JFK, but, you know, basically calling it a conspiracy theory and threw it out. So that's how controlled they are. But anyways, the bottom line, guys, is none of this is going to get better until Jesus comes back. So you're really your only hope, our only hope, my only hope in all this is eternity. And not that we don't speak out, and that's what we're called to do as Christians. And whether you're a Christian or non-Christian, you know, we're called to Buddhist, whatever you are, you know. We're called to tell the truth, unless you're a Muslim. Not all Muslims are bad, but the majority of them, you know, want Sharia law. But anyways, that's a whole other situation. But it's not going to get better until Jesus Christ comes back and resets the environment. And he will. He's going to. He's going to. So, you know, just accept Jesus Christ as your Savior. It's easy. Just believe in who he is. He is God, the Son. And he is who he said he is. And he did step out of eternity past, present, and future. Became a man. He was a man. He was fully God. And he died on the cross to pay the penalty for all of mankind's sin who believes in him. And that's it. There's no way to work your way to heaven. That's all you got to do. That's it. And then once you do that, you know, try to live your life the best. You have a friend of mine, Hal Lindsey, says, a famous evangelist. He says, you know, living the Christian life isn't easy. It's impossible. Meaning it's impossible to do it in your own power. But through the Holy Spirit, which Jesus said he would send another, which is the Holy Spirit. When you accept Jesus Christ as your Savior, the Holy Spirit comes and indwells you, and you become a new creature. You know, like Nicodemus, when Nicodemus, he was one of the Pharisees, and he actually came to believe in who Jesus was, and he said, you know, how can you be born again? How can I enter my mother's womb? And Jesus told him, you know, you don't understand, Nicodemus. You don't understand the spiritual things that I'm trying to tell you. But it's a spiritual rebirth that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about a physical rebirth. And there's a little syllogism. I think that's how you say it. Born once, die twice. And this is one from Hal made. Get this confused. Born once, die twice. Born twice, die once. Okay, that's it. Because if you are not born again, you're going to die physically and you're going to die spiritually. But if you're born again, you're only going to die physically. You will not experience that spiritual death, which you're cast out into eternity, into hell. But if you're born again, you like the thief on the cross, who was at first mocking Jesus and then later realized that, hey man, this guy's the real deal. And he just looked over at him and said, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And Jesus said, today you'll be with me in paradise. I mean, he couldn't do anything. There's nothing he could have done. He couldn't got off the cross and got baptized. There's nothing he could do. All he did was believe in Jesus. So, and look, and what a testimony the thief on the cross has left. You know, he didn't have this huge ministry. He didn't have any ministry. That's all he said. Believe me. Remember me, Lord, when you come into your kingdom. So, and what a testimony he left behind. So, anyways, that's it for the Dane's little pamphlet. Looks good. I'll get some, keep them in my car, and hand them out to people. See how many people we can wake up. So, God bless everybody. Accept Jesus Christ as your Savior.